The debate over sanctuary cities now spreading to some college campuses. Emory University in Atlanta, which is not a sanctuary city, now considering a proposal to declare the school a sanctuary campus. This comes as the Trump administration prepares a new immigration agenda, with Senator Jeff Sessions preparing to take over as Attorney General. Joining us now, Attorney Jesse Weber and Defense Attorney Brian Claypool. Guys, good to see you. Hey, Jesse, let me start with you. It's against the law to be a sanctuary city, but President Obama never wanted to enforce the law. Even though the Department of Justice Inspector General said you can lose federal funds if you're a city that doesn't comply with that law. Should college campuses also lose federal assistance if they become sanctuary campuses?
Well, look, Greg, the issue is that we really don't know what this means yet. And if they do this, they are in danger of being in violation of federal law. And the problem with that is that, number one, federal statute requires that you cannot harbor illegal immigrants, and states and municipalities must comply with immigration requests. And we don't know what they're planning on doing yet. So if we have a situation where campuses refuse to let ICE agents onto campuses without warrants, if we have situations where they instruct their local university police not to comply with federal immigration law for federal agents, we have a problem, and we don't know what it might turn into or what the result might be.
You know, Brian, it's not just against the law to be a sanctuary city. It's a felony under federal law, and let's put it up on the screen. Here's the statute. Any person who, knowing that an alien has come to the U.S. in violation of the law, conceals, harbors, or shields from detection such alien in any place, including any building, shall be in prison not more than 5 years. And Brian, if a city, for example, like San Francisco, lets an undocumented person out of jail, as they did in the Kate Steinle case, and somebody dies, she died because of it, you can be prosecuted if you're the sheriff or the mayor or a board of supervisors with life behind bars. What do you think of that?
Greg, absolutely. And in January, Donald Trump is going to become the quarterback of our team. He's going to run this country. And that statute that you just put on the screen is the #1 tool that he has in his playbook that our current administration has ignored for 8 years. That is, if you are a city like San Francisco or New York, or more recently Los Angeles, and you want to take the position that you're going to harbor illegal immigrants who either have criminal records or they've re-entered the country illegally, and you're not going to enforce this federal law by deporting these individuals, then you should, in my opinion, face criminal consequences. And Greg, in that Kate Steinle case, the assailant had 7 felony convictions, deported 5 times. Now you tell me why somebody, including local sheriffs who let him go, should not have been criminally prosecuted. And Trump needs to come out of the box, Jesse, to make a statement.
The statute of limitations hasn't run on that federal felony statute. Should the sheriff, who's since lost his job, by the way, should he be criminally prosecuted? Somebody died. Does he belong behind bars if convicted?
There's a very strong argument that he should be, but Greg, the most important thing that we have to not forget is that if we go back to the campuses here, what is the road that we want to end on? Because the last thing that we want is violence on our campuses. If we have situations where people are being prosecuted, where agents are coming onto the campuses, and there is a danger to the students, the faculty, that is the last thing that we want, and we cannot have that. So we have to be very careful about what the road that we take and the Trump administration moves forward with.
You know, Brian, Stanford University, I mean, there's like 100 universities that want to be sanctuary campuses or declare themselves to be. Others are considering. Stanford takes it a step further. They're not just talking about undocumented students. They're talking about literally on campus setting up a refugee camp to harbor and shield undocumented people here illegally, including arguably criminals. Should the feds, if they do that under a President Trump, shut down the entire campus for violating federal law?
Well, Greg, what you're seeing right now is this frenzy that is politically correct for mayors of cities, for chancellors of universities across the country to be taking the positions that, yeah, hey, we're going to be a sanctuary campus. We're going to be a sanctuary city. Well, it's a lot of fluff and stuff when you're talking about it, but once you face consequences, federal funding revoked, chancellors being sued, city officials, Greg, for example, mayors of cities can be sued by the government if they implement what you just talked about. Yeah. Now, when you start facing those consequences, I think you're going to hear a different story down the road, and this is going to go away.
And you know, Jesse, the irony and hypocrisy is apparent to all. I mean, you know, these universities, the private ones especially, they charge roughly $60,000 a year for their tuition, room and board, and so. I mean, you're talking about $250,000 for an education. And, you know, why don't they waive all of that for undocumented students, which they don't, if they're really sincere about this, instead of charging them $250,000?
You know, that might actually be what happens. Again, they're in the starting phases of what this might be. And just to tap into that earlier point, it's very premature to say that we're going to go around prosecuting people and arresting people. That might be the end result, and like I said, that is a concern. Sure. But if we stick to the funding, we stick to the programs that are backed by federal funds, you know, that might be a situation where we can put a little pressure on the campuses that are in violation of federal law. And it might be a situation, like you said, where we look at in specific programs and talk about tuition, and there might be an easier, peaceful way to do it.
Try the carrot and stick first. I mean, it's so interesting how idealistic politicians love to stick by their ideals until suddenly you take their wallet away from them and, a change of heart. It's funny how that works.
Right.
Okay, Jesse and Brian, guys, good to see you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg.